All right. Thank you guys for joining in and tuning in on Persevere to Excel podcast. Today, I have a special guest, my really good friend, Komot. Komot, how you doing, man?
Doing well. Thanks for having me here.
Dude, I am super pumped that you're here, man. We've been friends for a very, very, very long time. And this is like the holiday season. Like, what's some of your favorite stuff to do during the holiday?
Wow. It's a good question. Relax, lay down, watching some basketball, some football.
So sports is a big thing for you, huh?
Yeah. It's just calming for me.
Yeah. So what are you watching? Football, basketball, hockey?
Both.
What are you watching?
Both. The playoff season is coming up. Big New England fan. Celtics, Boston, all the way through.
That's awesome. And knowing that we live in New Hampshire, right? New Hampshire is one of the very cold places in United States. Have you gotten acquainted to kind of like the outside activity of living in a cold place during the winter time?
Wow. So I've been here for 20 years now, and no, not at all. I don't ski. Maybe I go tubing.
Tubing? Okay. Tubing counts, yeah.
But that was in my younger days. I don't do that now. I just like to stay inside, stay warm, and just stay warm. That's it.
That's what's up, man. Well, yeah, I think for me also, so we're both from Africa. You're from Sudan. I'm from the Congo. We both migrated to Manchester, New Hampshire. And for me, I've been here for 19 years. And every time winter hits, I'm like, what am I still doing here?
Yeah. I don't know. We keep coming back for more. Keep coming back for punishment.
There must be something else other than just the weather that brings us, that keeps us around here, right?
Yeah. Well, for me, it's just the community. I grew up here. This is all that I knew for a very long time. I wanted to get out when I got to college, but I stuck out here at UNH. I wanted to be closer to family. That's the thing, man. I'm a big family guy. I just want to make sure everybody's good, and I'll sacrifice a couple things just to make sure we're good.
Dude, man, that's the theme of our conversation today is family. So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit. So you came here originally from the Sudan, and just tell us a little bit about what that experience was like. How old were you when your family resettled to Manchester, New Hampshire?
Yeah, so I was 9 years old. It was back in 1999. We came from Egypt. So everything was pretty fresh. I still remember a lot. It was a tough time for me just because, you have friends back home. You got to get up and leave. You don't know what this holds. You don't know where you're going. It's not like we had some talk like, hey, we're going to go to Manchester, New Hampshire. It's going to be a cold place. This is what is that. We didn't know the language. Had to acclimate my whole lifestyle at a very young age. So that experience was it was just surprising. And you were just taking it day by day. You didn't know what the next day brought. You didn't know, who you're gonna see next, or who you're gonna talk to, or what kind of experiences you're gonna have. But for me, it was also exciting, right? Just trying to get to the next chapter.
For sure. If you can think back on those early days, what were some of the stuff that you experienced early on where you're like, man, this is awesome. This is amazing. I'm curious to know from that young age perspective.
Oh man, when I was young, at 9 years old, just trying some different types of food, right? Chicken nuggets for the first time, or ice cream, like the American ice cream, like those are the things that come to mind. Is just trying different food, because everything else I couldn't really just put my mind behind. I didn't know the language. I didn't know what I was looking at, right? TV was big. Having just that color, right? Back in Egypt, I didn't get TV, color TV. I wasn't experiencing that. So coming here, having a TV, even though I didn't know what people were saying, those are the kind of the things that I was first able to kind of get there. And then also, the smallest essentials, right? Toilets, right?
Right.
Sink, water, the tap open is clean water. I can drink from it. You don't have to boil the water right away. That was weird. And then milk, how we have milk in gallons of milk.
Yes.
We weren't having that in Egypt, right? So it's just smallest things that you wouldn't think about. At a young age, that's what I was surprised and was like, wow, there's a different world out here.
Seems like there was a lot that came with it that, you had to kind of chew on and get familiarized with. It's funny that you say ice cream. So we have a mutual friend, Pior Gabriel, not Pior Gabriel, and we grew up together. And one of the things that happened that was really interesting was when I first met him, I just resettled to Manchester, and him and his family, they've been here for a little bit. But we went to the same school, so they would walk up from where they were living to my house in order for us to walk down to the school. And we had this ritual where we would eat ice cream early in the morning. So my mom would give us ice cream sandwiches.
Oh, no way.
And we would eat ice cream sandwiches early in the morning before we went to school, and then we'll walk down to the school. So ice cream, I guess for me was a big deal. It was a big thing. So for me personally, I some of you guys know my story. I grew up in the Congo, and my father was assassinated. And in result of that, my family and I, we ended up at a refugee camp. And then we resettled to Manchester, and my mother was the only one kind of taking care of us. One of the things that was fascinating as we were acclimating, where most people would look at our deficits, right? Like what we don't have, right? Like, so people would look from the outside and be like, man, that's a single mother with 4 children. And, like she's working a factory job. Where for us in the other end was like, man, we're in a safe space.
Yeah.
Like we have freedom.
Yeah.
Even the bare minimum that we received by the social services, it was still big enough, right? So we came at it from that standpoint where it was like, man, we're free. We don't have to worry for our life being taken away. We can go to school for free, even though taxpayers, pay for it.
Yeah,
but the basic essential, you can go to school for free. And that for me at a young age, that was like good enough, like in terms of like what America had to offer, like that was the starting point, and that was good enough.
Absolutely. I mean, because you're not thinking about that. Now, once you have all those things, those just daily essentials that are basic human rights, right? You take advantage of that. But I at an early age, man, I came in here and I was like, wow, it's a blessing to be here. Very thankful, right? Just things that you get every day. Right, just having roads, car, right, getting to work, just having that process and people helping you with that. Even though there are other challenges that we're going through, right? But we don't have to go through the basic challenges. So
no, that's very true. If you can think back then, what were some of your aspirations, right? Like, because if you think about it, as a young kid, you're always like dreaming and thinking about stuff as you're being, introduced to all this new stuff. If you can think back then, if you can recall some of like your dreams and your vision and what you were thinking about, what your future would be, like, what were some of the stuff you thought about?
Man, I don't know, actually. I mean, that young, I was just thinking about the next day. I didn't dream much, right? I didn't have big aspirations. It's not like I had like a dream. I want to go to college and have this big job and this big house, white picket fence. I was just trying to get through the next day, make sure my family is good, and just doing the best that I can to get through the day and to get to the next, get through the next night and get through the night. So I never really had those big dreams until I got to college is when bigger dreams started coming out, wanting to change the world, those young things that come up. But as very early on, I didn't have those big dreams. So
it seemed like the day-to-day, the present, right? Yeah, as a young kid, like that was what was kind of keeping you going.
Keeping me going, keeping me fueling,
So for me, I would say I was fortunate in terms of like the people that came alongside my family, like, early on, they were very like open and transparent in terms of like, exposing us to different things. So the more that I saw what their experiences were like, the more I was like, oh yeah, this is going to be us too down the road. I remember a family that came alongside my family that kind of took us in. They like adopted us, and I've written a lot about them. And so we would go to their parties and stuff, family parties, or they would throw birthday parties for us. Just like their lingo and like how, like, they're a blue collar family, they had a little bit of money, but like, but just being exposed to that, like for me, for some reason, like,
you wanted that.
Yeah. Like to me, I was like, we're not there, but we're going to get there at some point. Yeah. And I remember one of the biggest milestones early on for us was my mom getting her license and then her getting a car. Like that was a big deal. And that happened within the first 12 months of us being here. Because the reality was like she couldn't go to work really if she didn't have a vehicle. She relied on other people to kind of carpool and stuff, but that just wasn't sustainable. So when that happened, like that was a big proof of concept for me and for my family to be like, whoa, mom got her license. Yeah. Mom is driving. So when those stuff started happening, that's when I was like, man, like as long as we continue on,
keep building on it, right? We're small steps.
Yeah, we're going to be okay. Yeah. So for me, like, I don't know exactly if I had like an actual visualization of what that future was going to be at that young age of 10, 11. But I just knew that where we were was just a starting point, that there was more to come. Yeah. So I do want to talk a little bit about responsibility. You and I both are the oldest in our family, right? And I've known you for a very long time, and we always kind of had that responsibility of like, you know, setting a good example for our siblings, but also like taking a little bit more ownership in terms of what our role was in terms of taking care of them and living out like what the example lifestyle needed to be like. So I'm curious to know from your standpoint, at a very young age, as you started to kind of grow and get assimilated to the country, what were some of the responsibility that were naturally like given to you?
Yeah. So early on, I would say day-to-day activities with your mother, right? Just going to the grocery store, figuring out what you need to take home, reading the labels, what the labels mean, how much it costs, going to the register, right? Those are responsibilities that a 9-year-old probably didn't have to go through, right? So I did a lot of the grocery shopping. Then it's like, we got to wash clothes. There's no washer dryer at the house. Normally we do everything with our hands. So we got to go to the laundromat. Yeah. Take a nice walk down to the laundromat, get the coins, you know, figure out how to use that machine. Asking questions. Hey, how does this work? I don't know what I'm doing here. I didn't have my mom to kind of show me how to work because she didn't know how to do it either.
So it was actually happening the other way around, where you were learning all this new experiences, and you have to bring it back to your mom and dad.
Wow. And show her the way. And then it's interviews if she's, you know, just with food stamps or whatnot, or people coming into the home asking questions. Just, you know, they're trying to help us get acclimated in the system. My mom wasn't speaking any English, so they asked me, and I barely spoke English either, but I had to pick it up quickly. And understand, digest, and transfer over to my mother. So those responsibilities came up early, and then naturally it progressed with, you know, my siblings going to school. Anything that happened is at school, they reach out to the family. I'm the point of contact, right? So that's just started so early, and it's continued, I mean, into my adult life now, right? And it's just something that I love doing it, right? But it kind of took away a little bit from your childhood, but also made me the man that I am today. Because those responsibilities taught me just the way of life, just, you know, getting through life, getting through school, how to take things day by day, right? How to take care of what's in front of you, right? And not just getting lost in the just life, essentially.
Wow, come on. And I can relate to that 100%. So just to break down kind of some of the stuff that you said. So the fact that you were assimilating a little bit faster than your parents, naturally you became kind of the middleman, like the bridge. Yeah. Even though you might have not fully understand what that experience was or what that was, but you still were moving a little bit faster, then that became kind of your responsibility to close the gap. Oh yeah, mom, this is this. Yeah. Hey, mom, this is what the school is saying. This is what, and then part of that, it just became naturally part of your responsibility. Yeah. And I could attest to that. And I would say exactly that exactly same thing happened with me too. It was like, I mean, I could even, you know, it's kind of embarrassing because it was like, even sometimes like hospital visits where there was stuff that was personal with my mom, and I had to kind of, be the one to take the information and then give it back to her. And it's like
very awkward.
You know what I mean? It's like, whoa, like, is this even? But when it was happening, I never had to kind of reflect on it and be like, oh man, this is a hard situation. No, it was almost like autopilot. It's like, oh yeah, I'm the person that's going to interpret.
Yeah, it's life.
I remember even at times when, like, what my mom's salary was for jobs that she was applying for, like I was in the front line of those interviews with those companies, and it was like, hey mom, they're gonna pay you this much, and this is what it looks like, but the reality is also there was no one else to close the gap. That's why we were given those responsibilities. Like we had to step up.
Yeah, if it wasn't you, it was just it's gonna fall somewhere else that people aren't really taking care of, right?
Yeah, and that's the piece of it too. That dynamic, a lot of people don't fully understand in terms of what are the things that contributes to certain immigrants when they're assimilating and they're starting from the ground up, right? There's two different things, right? There's certain immigrants that migrate here that have the means, right? They're coming in with money and they're a little bit more established. So when they get here, they have a little bit more upper mobility to kind of catch up where they left off in their previous country. Where there's certain immigrants that are coming here, they're starting from scratch, And for me and you as former refugees, like we were starting from scratch. So whatever that was presented, we had to. It was almost like a community thing. Like we were the only community our family had. So like we kind of had to just take care of each other's back.
Yeah,
right.
We just had each other. That's what it was.
So I would love to hear from your perspective in terms of like, how did that like play out in terms of your relationship with your younger siblings? Because I know for me personally, it played a significant role, even, from elementary to middle school to high school, where my role as an older brother was a little bit different, where I would say personally for my staying, it kind of almost was like I was playing a little bit of a father figure for my brothers because of, one, I was the oldest, two, there was a lot of demonstration through me. So I'm curious to know from you, how was your relationship with your siblings growing up with you kind of being that exemplary person, right? You're the proof of concept. You had to reinforce certain things and teaching them certain things. Yeah.
My relationship with my siblings, as an older brother is different than I would say a lot of people's relationship, because I was that third parent that, I was in that line of defense where anything that went wrong kind of fell on me, or anytime that they had a question, right, they had to go through me, right? I got to get permission, not in a negative way, but just going through school, right? Who's going to sign your paperwork? I got to interpret that. Yeah, mom, we can do this. No, they can't do this. This is why they shouldn't be doing that. And anytime they have trouble, like that goes through me. And I had a really good relationship with them. I was also their brother, right? Their mentor. I went through a lot of things that they didn't have to go through, right? Because anything that I went through that was negative, I could bring it back. All right, you guys shouldn't do it this way. This is the negative way, right? These are the negative impacts that happen. And then also I was just leading by example. When I went to school, if I brought home bad grades, I can't turn around to my brother and be like, you need to bring home good grades, right?
That's true. That's fact right there.
So when that kind of lands on you, is this added pressure where it's like, all right, I can't go and just mess up and just be someone else that I'm not, right? Get in trouble in school. Then my little brother is looking at me, and when he's in trouble, he's just gonna be like, I'm doing what you're doing, right? So I took that to heart, right? Because I also wanted them to do better. I wanted them to do better than I was. I never saw myself that I was gonna be this big, successful person. I just thought I would just pave the road and just get them to the next phase, right? And that we can get there together and just try to, just trying to survive essentially.
No, for sure. So let's fast track a little bit. So then, you're middle school, you're in high school, and we both had opportunities to go to private and public schools. So I'm curious to know, real quick, like what was that like, and why did it make more sense for you to go to a private school in a certain point of your life, and why didn't? And what did you learn from that experience?
That's a big question. So I went to Southside Middle School. And I had some educational success there. Not great. I just showed up essentially with public school. Right. If you just show up, you'll get by pretty easily. But what it was when I got through the 8th grade, I was very tall. I was like about 6'2", right? Didn't really grow that much since then, but
that's still pretty tall. For some people.
Yeah, right? yeah, of course.
You're taller than me.
So, but there's that sport aspect where it was like, all right, the coach and people at the school were looking for some other athletes to recruit. Whether it was football, basketball. I wasn't very good at any of them. They recruited my cousin, Richard Madall, who was going to Trinity High School. He was being recruited to go to Trinity High School, and he was just like, "Hey, my cousin is also pretty good. Let's bring him up." And I commend him for that, because then they recruited me, and I had no business playing basketball at that time. no hand-eye coordination. So the cousin
threw you an alley-oop when the opportunity was there, and they jumped on it.
And I was like, "Yeah, sure, I'll go."
That's
man,
amazing
whatever.
How that works.
Yeah, I had no business being there. It's just night and day with from private school and public school. The biggest thing is just having just being held accountable, right? You weren't getting that in a public school, I would say, right? The coursework was a little tougher, but there was a lot of help. There was, smaller classes. It's a come do extra credit. If you just showed up and were interested and you wanted to do well, you could do well. When I was that young, I was like, I didn't. With that first year going in, I thought I made the biggest mistake of my life. Like,
oh wow,
there's no way I'm gonna be able to get through this. Like, everybody's so much smarter than I am. I can barely get through this book over here, and now you want me to be in these AP classes and whatnot. But I just went back to what I know, which is just taking it one day at a time, take care of what's in front of you. And next thing you knew, I graduated from Trinity High School, and then I was able to get some college looks as well, which was great, right?
That's incredible.
Didn't
That's
think
awesome.
I was going to be going to college either.
Wow.
So, changed my life, I would say.
How was it? How did the community, because it was a predominantly white community at that private school, and how receptive were they of you? And because at that point it was becoming a little bit more diversified in terms of the students that they were recruiting. I know that we had some similar friends back then. So how was the community? Was the community receptive of you guys? And I'm curious to know from your perspective.
I mean, at first, at first they were not receptive because I think we were one of the first wave to go through that school. There was another class that was ahead of us that were immigrant families going into Trinity High School. At first, it was kind of a shock. It was a shock to them and a shock to us as well. I don't think they were as receptive as they could have been.
And when you say a wave, we're talking like 6 to 12 kids out of what, like 250 kids total?
Yeah. So it's a good percentage though, right? I mean, you're talking about 10-15%. And I don't think they were as receptive as they could have been, right? It was more of, just trying to get acclimated at first. But by the end, by my senior year, felt really comfortable. The teachers were great. The students, it took a while, right? Because it was just like us versus them, right? Kind of a little bit of segregation that was going on. We just didn't understand each other. That's what it was, right? So once from freshman, sophomore year, it was pretty tough. But by the time we got to junior, senior year, I think we were all acclimated, and it was one of the best experiences that I had.
That's awesome. That's great. And the reason I asked you that, because I went through that in middle school where I actually left an EL class where I wasn't even out of EL. I was still taking English as a second language courses. Yeah. And I ended up in this private school, private Catholic school. And at the time, the school was predominantly white. And I think there was only maybe 3 or 4 black kids total in the entire school. And one of the things that I value a lot from that experience was they never compromised the rigor, whatever that rigor was in terms of their education. They never said, oh, here's Dale. He's only been in the States for 3 years. Let's figure out another way of presenting the content. It was like, no, you're in there with everybody else. Like, figure it out. And even though I wasn't like the best student, but it forced me to really engage like at a different level because I was the only one in that sphere. Yeah. But then the other thing that I value a lot from that experience was too just engaging and interacting with some of my friends' parents because they were kind of well off, the fact that they were able to let their kids go to a private school that they're paying for. And so sometimes being in the car with them as they're dropping me off for stuff, just like the conversation that they were having around certain things. Like, again, what I was saying earlier is, to me, I was like, man, that could be me too later on. You know what I mean? I could be a lawyer. I could be a teacher. I could, whatever it is, So being exposed to that early on, I didn't shy away from it. I didn't say, oh man, they're really well off. Like, let me stay on my pocket. Like, that's not for me.
You double down.
Exactly. For me, I was like, oh, heck yeah. After 4 years in high school, I'm going to college too. I really love politics, or I really like this. So I think that exposure for me, it's different because I was already kind of a go-getter, kind of a kid.
It's a mindset.
But it really helped me also learn what it means to be in a not diverse space. even though my community was somewhat diverse, the neighborhoods that we played around with was diverse, but the school that I was going through on a daily basis wasn't. So by the time I went to high school, I went to a public school. So I went back with the rest of the homies again.
You're back home.
But I felt like I was seasoned differently. I remember something that happened in my, I had a level 2 social study class. And I always liked politics, right? Like I was always good in politics. I always just followed. I knew who was the president. I knew just so many different things. Yeah. So then in the class, the teacher asked me a question. I was always the one to answer. Within the first week, the teacher pulled me aside and said, "Dale, you got to move up to my level 3 class." And I was like, "Yeah, if you think that's the best." Yeah. So she advocated for me to move to a level 3 class, but a lot of that was also like the structure of what kind of learning that I came out of from that private school. Even though I wasn't the best student, I still had a stronger foundation to advocate for myself.
Absolutely.
And then when I moved to the level 3 class, it was predominantly white kids. Yep. But then I felt like it was fine for me because I was used to it. Yep, exactly. So I would raise my hand in class, and a lot of my classmates who came from a different district that went to the same high school, they were kind of like, "Wow, this kid is kind of he fits in.
Yeah, he knows what he's doing."
You know what I mean? Yeah. So that was one of the things I definitely have to I don't know if for people going to private school that's predominantly one ethnicity is a good thing, but for me, it just exposed me to a different thing because I feel like a lot of people in the immediate community that I was in didn't have access to certain things. So that wasn't even part of the lingo of what the parents talked about. So being exposed to some of those affluent family, because of the drive that I had, it just validated, one day that's going to be me too.
Yeah.
So anyway, let's move on a little bit. So then you end up, so you got to go to college. So you decided that you got accepted to a bunch of colleges. What informed where you ended up going?
Money.
money. Yeah.
So I applied to a bunch of different schools. I got accepted to all but one, which is, I forgot the name of the school. I think it was somewhere in Maryland. So I got accepted to the schools that I really wanted to go to. Providence was really high on my list. That's where I wanted to go. But it was too expensive to go there. But my mom and I were like,
hold on, let me backtrack. How did you feel when you got that first letter of acceptance?
Man, it was amazing. It was an amazing feeling just because at the time, I never thought that I was going to go to college. It was not a thing that was, in front of me. I just figured I'd finish high school, start getting a job, and start helping out my mom.
Because you were already also working, right?
Yeah, I was
During
working.
high school, you were working already.
I started working as a sophomore in high school, right? I was doing 25 hours a week, still going to school, playing sports, just because I needed to support my family somehow, right? Some money needed to come in. The government assistance wasn't enough to get, we had a big family.
Close the gap, right?
Yeah, I was one of 7, so...
That's serious.
There's a lot of mouths to feed. But when I got that first acceptance letter, man, I felt so good. I'm telling you, it was, I had to do the application by myself. I had to do the research by myself. I just, find out where I wanted to study, where the school was at. If I wanted to visit the school, I had to find a car and get down there by myself and do it. So there was a lot of work that went into it. And there's a lot of questions that it was difficult to answer in the Common app that I didn't know where to find the answers to. But you just dig, and I just kept working and working.
You persevered through them.
Yeah, and I got there. So by the time I got that first acceptance letter, and especially it was a school that I wanted to go to, man, and I thought it was a reach school, right? So I applied to a bunch of reach schools, and I thought I was just gonna have to settle for a couple, schools over here in the backyard, community colleges or whatnot. And that's why I was like, I'm not going to go to a community college. I can just get a job and start supporting my family. So I'm not going to waste my time with that. But then what happened was when you started getting the acceptance letter, then someone's got to pay for the school.
Right.
And
so you went from high and all of a sudden like, oh snap, how am I going to pay for this?
Yeah, it was like $30,000 a year to go to Providence. And
back then that was expensive. I know it's doubled within the last 10 years.
It's doubled now. So I was like, okay, that's not gonna go. Then I went to University of Hartford. That was a little better. That was $15,000 a year, and I was all right. I can make that happen. So I was like, I can make it happen. We pack up and I was ready to go. And then just last minute, I was like, I can't find 15 grand to pay, right? And I looked at my mom, and I was like, we can make it happen. I was like, I had some money saved up. It wasn't enough, so I hit up UNH because I had applied, and it's an in-state tuition. It was all great, gravy. They're like $8,000 to go. I was like, we were able to scrap, so I didn't have to worry about the second semester just yet. We had to put together $4,000.
Right.
So I had about $2,000 saved up.
So you had a gap of $8,000 out of pocket.
Yeah,
$8,000 and $4,000 each semester.
Yeah. Let me clarify. After financial aid and everything,
right.
I had to come up with $8,000, which is a lot of money.
It's a lot of money
from other students. They're like, that's a bargain, right? But I was like, I have to pay for this, right? So I was like, we were able to scrap some money. I had $2,000 saved up. My mom was able to figure out to get another $2,000, and we were all set, ready to go. We go to UNH. So that was just $4,000 for the first semester. I'm getting through the semester. We're working. I'm doing my thing, and then it's like, all right, I got to pay for the second semester.
Right.
And where am I going to get $4,000? So I was ready to drop out at that point. I was like, it's not worth it. What if I can't get through this year because I couldn't find another $4,000? I could have been working right now, making that money.
100%, right?
So I mean, it's not worth it. I gotta find something else. And I mean, I gotta do this the following year. Find another $8,000. It could be $10,000 next year. It's like, nah, I gotta go. So, but before I went, again, my cousin, he was my roommate at the time. The same guy that was able to get me to go to Trinity High School. We both go to UNH together. He's my roommate, and he's having the same issue. And he knows he's got a family of a friend. I was like, all right, it's not time to drop out. This is what you got to do. You got to draft a letter to the school and tell him your position. So that family friend helps my cousin draft this letter. And I'm like, I don't think it's going to work. But all right. So I get together. I draft my letter. Takes me like 2 weeks, trying to get it all together.
Right.
Send it to the school. Pretty much explaining I don't have money to go to school. I'm going to drop out. What happened was my financial aid piece, I applied to it too late because my father wasn't around to help me put it together.
To finish some requirement that they needed.
There's some requirements that he needed to finish,
right.
that he needed to do, and he wasn't around to do it. So by the time he got back and he did it, and I was able to submit it, it was already too late. I think I was a month off. So once the deadline is cut, I'm not available. I'm not considered for that financial aid.
So you got the scrap. You got the leftovers.
I got the last of it.
Oh,
of it. So that's why I had to pay $8,000 out of pocket. They read the letter anyway. So I'm packing up. I'm ready to go. I don't think I was coming back for the second semester, and I get a letter in the mail. They're like, "Oh, congratulations, we're reconsidering.
That's
we're
incredible.
gonna reconsider your tuition," and they give me like the full tuition with the federal Pell Grant. Let me clarify. I still have to pay the loans. It's not free, right?
Right.
But they're
it's
loans.
baked in, right?
Yeah, they're loans that the government has given me to get through school. That I'm still paying today, but it's not out of pocket, right?
Exactly.
So and then they refunded the $4,000 that I had paid.
Oh
to begin
snap!
with.
You got a little refund.
So I mean, the smart thing to do at the time would have been to pay off the loan,
exactly,
right? And kind of work through it. But I was like, yo, this is real money in front of me, right? So I mean, I'll bring it back home, give my mom her money, and buy a couple things for the family, and
right.
and just enjoy that at the time. And I was able to finish out UNH. It took me 5 years instead of 4, so I had more grant money that I needed, but I got through it.
Komot, just hearing that story, it's like that's the thing when you're starting from a certain level, like. Yeah. There's always that rift, right? Mm-hmm. And people experience this a lot all the time. And when those rift happens, either you continue on or then you lower back down because you're like, hey, that's not even my league. Yeah. I can't even compete. I've done all I can do to get to here, but I don't have anything else to continue on. So what ends up happening for some people is then they scoop back down because it's like, hey, this is my playing field. This is what I can maintain.
Where I belong right here.
Right. It's like, but then sometimes like what changed the trajectory is that next milestone.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And that's the thing about like really like grinding out and persevering and being resourceful during those moments is the fact that like anything could happen to contribute to that next tier, as long as you're pushing through. And for you guys, you and Richard decided that, hey, family friend recommended that you might have to write the letter,
Yeah.
just give it a shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And luckily that worked, and that led to that next position in your life where you were able to finish school and graduate, and now you've been working corporately for a good amount of time.
Yeah.
And it's so incredible, man. It's just so incredible. And I've known you for so long, and we have such a similar story in terms of just being able to push through, right?
Yeah.
Like roadblocks. Oh man, what are we gonna do? All right, we're gonna call some people up. Hey, this is my idea. That's what I'm thinking. Hey, working at a very young age too. That's another piece, man.
Yeah.
You were working hotel hospitality. I was working for retail and cleaning companies. So. And that's the thing, what people don't understand is sometimes it's like when you're starting from zero or from a deficit or from a gap, you gotta also, it's not just about like going forward. It's also like getting the stuff that you need along the way so you can continue on. And it's just so inspiring to hear that, what led to where you, like how you ended up elevating, and what an amazing testament to your family as well, to your brothers, to be able to see, your brother and sister, to be able to see, man, Komot is in college.
Yeah.
Oh snap, Komot is graduating.
Yeah.
And I remember the same thing for me, right? Like when I was in college, I had a lot of ups and downs. I remember one time I took way too much. I anticipated that I was going to get a big refund, so I took a bunch of classes in the summer, and then the school decided not to give me a portion of it, and I had to come up with, I think it was like $12,000 in 2 weeks, and
Jeez.
I was able to finagle my way and try to figure out how they can change stuff, and that worked out. But that's just the reality of, life sometimes. And I want to just get your perspective a little bit now that you've been in this corporate space, and you've been able to implement some of the skills that you've learned, right? Obviously, the schooling stuff was just to say that, hey, this kid is capable.
Yeah.
And the reality was actually the experiences you had to learn along the way within the company that you've worked for so long now and where you are now. I'm just curious to know, how did that transition happen, right? When you finished and you got a job, and then now it was like, hey, I got to deliver. What was that like?
Scary. Very scary, because at first I didn't think I was good enough. I didn't think I could do it. I thought I made a mistake again, right? Like when I was at Trinity High School, where I was way over in my head, right? Because especially with the people that I was competing with, I just felt like they were so much smarter, better. They just knew what was going on around them, and I was just I had to catch up. I was behind. So for me,
what were some of the things that you realized that you were a little bit behind on?
So the smallest things that people didn't have to worry about, right? Like I was still at home with my mom and helping out my siblings. So the paycheck that I was getting was good for someone of my age, but I still had other responsibilities where I was working, I had to put in sometimes, 45, 50-hour weeks, right? But I didn't have free time at home where I can study up for my industry, for what my job needed, right? Like to kind of get to the next level. I didn't have that free time to kind of put to my craft because I had other responsibilities that I needed to do, right? So just that space, I didn't have extra time, right? And then just the knowledge that some of the people I was competing with that they had, right? They knew what they wanted to do at a young age. Maybe they knew like what they had to study up on, the industry. Their parents were in the industry, right? They know people in the industry. So I'm in the wine and spirits industry. So a lot of it has to be with who you know. But Gallo's who I work with right now, and they've been really really good to me for a very long time, just giving me the resources that I need to get to the next level, essentially. So I don't think I'd be able to be here without that company pretty much giving me those resources that other companies wouldn't really afford to, right? But I just had to, buckle down, get down, and study up, put in extra work, and just work and grind hard and wait my turn, essentially, to get to the next place. And just get to know the people around me and use my personality and use my life experiences just to get me through, essentially.
That's incredible. So what are some of where are you now in terms of your professional pathway, right? And it seems like, you've been with this company for a good amount of time, and now you have more and more responsibility, and you're looking out for other folks, and you're finding other opportunities in terms of helping your your company to be effective and to produce. So how is that that transformation, from being kind of the entry, starting, being in the middle tier, and now you're kind of the second tier of the middle tier? How does that feel for you?
No, so it feels good, right? Just because I've worked so hard to get here, right? And to get rewarded feels real good. I'm doing something right, and then now I'm building a team, right? Trying to get through goals, get results through other people, and just kind of see that feels really good. And then just continuing to work hard and looking in the future, right? This is not where it's gonna stop, right? I just gotta keep working and getting to the next level, and just growing with the company, because the company continues to grow as well. And I want to take advantage of that and grow with them and get to the next level myself. But it's been great. It's been a great experience so far, and I continue to be happy and be blessed with it, and not take it for advantage, and just continue to work on it.
That's awesome. So the last question is, a lot of my listeners and people that watch my stuff and follow along, sometimes they're on the receiving end, right? Or sometimes they're on the giving end. So I say sometimes they're the key holders. So there's the decision makers. So it might be manager, directors, it might be teachers, it might be policy makers. And they have the opportunity to actually change someone's trajectory. And then my other listeners are actually on the receiving end. So they're the ones who are, how a teacher views them and how they open up might be critical in terms of them moving forward, or how a companies consider it when they see their application, when they apply, could be critical in how they move forward. So if you had to give feedback or an encouragement word around perseverance, what would you say?
Wow. You asked a lot of good questions, man.
You got this, man. You've been breathing and eating this, man.
Oh, man. What would I say? I would say just, don't give up, essentially, right? I mean, do you have it here?
Oh, he's rocking it.
Yeah,
he's right. That's not a plug, but he's currently,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, he's wearing a sweater that I created called "Don't Give Up, You Got This."
You got this. So you say it perfectly. Because a lot of times in life, it's going to knock you down. There's a lot of things in life that are going to knock you down. Whether it's, applying for a job, you don't get it. You get into the job, you don't get that sale. You fail at a certain project, but you just can't give up, because it's just that next step is what's going to get you over, right? I almost gave up going to college. If I had given up so early, I wouldn't be able to where I am today. When I was at Trinity, I could have given up and moved back to Memorial or just doing to public school. I wouldn't be where I am today, right? There's a lot of things, even with my job, I could have quit early on because I didn't fit. I didn't feel like I fit. People, the surrounding areas, right? I could have given up, but just don't give up and continue to work towards what you want, and it'll get there. You'll get there.
Thank you so much, Komot, for joining me in this amazing interview. I get so inspired by just seeing all the amazing progress that you've made and the man that you are today. And I appreciate it so much. And for my listener, you got this. Don't give up and continue to press through, persevere to excel. Thank you.